Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where we take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either May 23rd or 24th, 2023, and I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? Let's go ahead and start off this video like we start off most of these videos by taking a look back at my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was Something Epic, issue number 1, and the question remains, was it a worthy and worthwhile pick to be my just one book pick of the week? The answer is kinda, mostly, yes, mostly. Let me elaborate just a little bit. There's a lot of things Something Epic did really well. The art was fantastic. Not only in the quality of the art that was being presented, which was really good, but also in the way that the panels were laid out. I really liked that. There were these one-page splash pages that kind of slowed things down a little bit and had more text, and then you had the individual panels that I felt like moved the story along and moved the character along really nicely. It was presented very well. I also really liked the concept. It's basically about a young boy who can see manifestations of people's imaginations. Most people cannot see this. The vast majority of people can't see this, but he can. And when he's expressed concern, or just, telling his mom, there's a vampire in the attic, and the mom's like, uh-oh, I'm very concerned about my boy. He needs some serious help. But he's like, no, I can really see a vampire in the attic. So there's conflict there, and it's a cool premise, and basically he's taking a bit of a hands-off approach to these manifestations for his own well-being, because he's not quite so sure if interacting with them is going to end up being such a good idea. So there were a lot of great things, but the problem for me mostly was that I wasn't quite sure what the story is. I understand what the premise is, but I'm not quite sure what the story is. Now, they hint at some things that might lead to what the story will become. For example, there's at least one other person that is presented in the comic book at one point who can also see these manifestations of these imaginary things, and basically makes a comment about whether or not they're going to approach this boy about it, and communicates to somebody else that no, the boy is not ready. So is that a deep storyline that's going to happen way down the line, or is that something that's going to happen sooner than later? I don't know. He also tends to, like I said, keep arm's distance away from these manifestations for his own well-being. Well, that just doesn't lead to very much, like, by way of interesting story. I wanted to see, well, what happens when he does interact with, what's the conflict here? And all that being said, I wanted to mention that comic books are a difficult storytelling medium, especially in a first issue. You want to set up the characters, the premise, the concept, you want to set the story, you want to set up all of these things, but it's not very much space to do that. So it is a very difficult task, and it's why lots of comic books, you got to read at least 3 issues of it before you even really know, is it good, is it bad, what is it at all? And that might be the case here of Something Epic. I'm not so sure if I will continue to read Something Epic, but I'm considering it because there was enough good there in issue number 1, but I don't know if there was enough there for me to add it to my already too large poll list. So we'll have to see about that. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts about Something Epic if you read it. So let me know those thoughts down in the comments. I know I'm horrible about acknowledging the comments, but I read every single one that I get. There's not that many, so it's easy to do. But just know, if you do leave a comment, I do read it. So I'd like to hear what you thought about Something Epic down in the comments. All right. Let's go ahead and move forward now and take a look at the books that are coming out this week. Fortunately, there aren't nearly as many of them as there has been in previous weeks, so hopefully we can get through this video much quicker than we have. Thank you very much to all of you for your patience in the past few weeks with some of these videos being extra long. Let's go ahead and talk about my first honorable mention today, which is Feeder, issue number 1 from Sumerian Comics. Here's the description. Lee Kid was the most famous action movie hero of the 80s, but he's fallen on hard times. With his life in a downward spiral, Kid has become a shadow of his former self, turning to a life of crime as an enforcer for a local crime boss. But when he's given a new job, can he bring himself to complete it? Or is he being given a chance to change his ways? All right, I'm a fan of redemption stories. I don't know why. I don't think I need redemption in any way, shape, or form. You know, my wife might have a difference of opinion on that, but I don't think I necessarily need redemption in my life. But I do like redemption stories. I like to see people down on their luck turn things around, especially when they're deep down on their luck, because there tends to be a lot of having to clawing and scraping to get yourself out of that situation. And it sounds like this is teed up nicely for that kind of story. So if those types of stories interest you, this might be worth checking out this week. It seems like it's one of those comic books that is heavy on storytelling, and that can be really, really great, as opposed to other ones that are about like punching and, you know, saving the world. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is Storm, issue number 1 of a 5-issue limited series from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Storm faces the blowback of her powers. Aurora Monroe, aka Storm, has been a thief, a goddess, and a leader of the X-Men, and she's just getting started. With her mutant ability to control the weather bolstered by her top-notch fighting skills, she's a formidable opponent like no other, as Callisto and the Morlocks can attest. But when an elemental power emerges near the Xavier Mansion, it'll take Storm to the limit of her powers and beyond. Get ready for an electrifying all-new series showcasing Storm's days of rocking her mohawk and leading the X-Men as she faces an all-new villain that will threaten to tear her apart from her team and what she thought she knew about herself. There's a lot I like here. I like Storm a lot. I like the 80s and 90s, you know, mid-70s, 80s, 90s era X-Men so much. And this is in that sweet spot where this story will be taking place. So that's very appealing to me. I think Storm is an amazing character with an amazing power set. I think she has an amazing backstory, amazing personality. And also she's easy on the eyes. So there's a lot of things I like about Storm. I think Storm is a fantastic character, so I'm very happy to see her in her own series. This series also promises an all-new villain, which is exciting, but it's tempered excitement for me. You know, I like books that I can spec on. I like books that are appealing to me to read because I read everything I buy. But I also like the idea that maybe there's some potential for this book to have value in the future. And an all-new villain promises maybe a certain level of that value. Now, if it is an all-new villain, it has to be a villain that was around during storylines in the late 80s and then hasn't been around for going on 35 years. So where has this villain gone? And does the fact that this villain hasn't been around for decades kill its spec potential? Meaning, like, does she handle this villain permanently? Who knows? So the spec potential aspect of it is a little questionable. I don't love that this is taking place in the past because, like I said, I think that hurts the spec potential. But I do think it is in a sweet spot for storytelling for the character, kind of sort of better than where they are right now. The mutants are just so powerful right now, Storm included, being, you know, basically like, you know, queen of the mutants now. I think there's good about putting it in this era for storytelling, but not necessarily for spec potential. Anyways, I'm rambling a bit on Storm because I am excited about it, but with a tempered excitement. So I, at the very least, had to make sure it was on your radar. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called Fury, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Who is Scorpio? A glamorous rogue agent with a deadly secret lures Nick Fury into the action thriller of a lifetime, his father's. Following the trail opens never-before-seen Fury files from the Howlin' 40s, the Swingin' 60s, and today. But it takes more than one Nick Fury to unlock a mystery decades in the making, and to answer the question, who is Scorpio? Okay, well, first thing I'll mention is that this is written by Al Ewing. Al Ewing is very good, so that's a very good sign for this book. This question asks at the beginning of its solicitation, at the end of its solicitation, who is Scorpio? And I was like, well, Scorpio sounds familiar. And so I actually looked up Scorpio. Scorpio is a character that came around in the original Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. book from early 1970s, I think, or late 1960s. So it's actually a question that's been answered back then. So I don't know why we're revisiting the question, because you can go on to Key Collector and the answer to who Scorpio is in the description. I'm not going to spoil it just in case you wanted to read Fury. But it's weird that they're answering a question that's already been answered in the story. They're also doing it with multiple Nick Furies, because we all know that Nick Fury wasn't always the way he looks today. So they're incorporating multiple Nick Furies over multiple decades and eras. Nick Fury's been a character that's been around for a while. I don't know that I would be so interested in a Nick Fury solo series or in the one that's being presented the way this is being presented, but at the very least, I had to make sure it was on your radar. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is Daredevil and Echo, issue number 1 of a 4-issue limited series from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Something stirs beneath Hell's Kitchen. For months, the bloodthirsty and demonic Demogoblin has been kidnapping children for reasons unknown. In this series, Daredevil and Echo discover why, as Demogoblin works to make an ancient and powerful evil deep within the bowels of the city. Reunited at last with Echo, herself fresh from a brief time as the host of the Phoenix Force, it falls to Daredevil to stop Demogoblin and save not only the children, but everyone in New York. I mention this because obviously Echo came out of Daredevil, so pairing Echo with Daredevil, it makes sense. He's blind, she's deaf, and together they are awesome. And separately they're awesome. I guess I understand putting them in a story together. We're also going to be seeing a lot more from the character of Echo from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So if you liked what you saw of Echo so far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if you like what you have seen of her from the comic books, if you like Daredevil, these are all reasons why you might consider picking up Daredevil and Echo. So it's a limited series, it's a low commitment. If you're curious, check it out. If you're not, move on. The next book I want to mention to you is Blue Book, issue number 4 of a 5-issue limited series from Dark Horse Comics. Here's the description. Madness and paranoia continue to take a toll on the sanity of Betty and Barney Hill as they search for help in determining whether their nightmares may have been missing memories of their alien encounter. Tiny Onion Studios and Dark Horse Comics present a line of upcoming creator-owned work from the mind of James Tynion IV across a broad spectrum of his interests, from non-fiction supernatural encounters to high-concept coming-of-age monster comics, also including True Weird, The Cinder Woman by Steve Fox, John McCree, and Aditya Bidikar. I mentioned this book this week because it's on my pull. Why is it on my pull? Because it's from my guy. So wearing his Something Is Killing the Children shirt right here. It's from my guy, James Tynion IV. As I mentioned before, Blue Book is not for everybody. If you're into alien abduction stories and comic books, then this is for you. If you're not, it's probably not for you. And if I was going to lead you to something from James Tynion IV, this would be the last thing of his that I would probably lead you to. It's fine. It's good. It's not great. I'm reading it because I'm obsessed. But I will take this opportunity to mention that James Tynion IV, just a couple days ago, was nominated again for Best Writer at the Eisner Awards. It's a comic book award ceremony that takes place around the time of San Diego Comic-Con. He's won the Best Writer award the past 2 years in a row. Why? Because he's the best. Will he win a third year in a row? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. But his titles like The Department of Truth and The Nice House on the Lake were both nominated for Best Ongoing Series. And other people around him got nominations as well. So congratulations to James and to his collaborators for their nominations in the Eisners. All right, so those are all of the honorable mentions that I have for you this week. Now we have the one book that I would buy this week if I could buy just one book. And that book is The Ambassadors, issue number 5 of a 6-issue limited series from Image Comics. Here's the description. The Ambassadors are special individuals, handpicked from every country for their incredible decency. So why is the Australian ambassador an old-school, anti-progressive PR nightmare? Okay, I know what you're wondering. Jeff, why are you picking Ambassadors issue number 5 as your Just One Book pick of the week? Well, there's a few reasons. One, this is a light week. There is really nothing coming out this week, try as I might, definitely not amongst my honorable mentions. There's nothing really that jumped out at me as being exciting. But the Ambassadors issue number 5 is exciting to me. Why? Well, it's been exciting to me since issue number 1. I have been pleasantly surprised with this title. It has been very enjoyable to read, very entertaining, and way better than I ever would have expected. And in fact, apparently other people are catching on to this fact. I get an email from Cover Price, which is an online resource for cataloging and I guess pricing comic books. I have mixed feelings about their pricing, but it's interesting the emails that I get from him. One of them I get is the hottest books of the week, the books that are selling, have seen a most dramatic change in sales. And this week, it told me that people are scooping up the Ambassadors issue number 1. They're going for about $15 a piece on eBay right now. And there's no spec news. There's no option news or anything like that. It's basically just off of reading. In fact, let me just read what Cover Price says here real fast. It says, well, this book is no longer flying under the radar. Touted as the most ambitious comic book of all time is quite the billing. Initially, most disregarded it before they got their hands on it, as Mark Millar titles can be unpredictable in their longevity, both in new issues and aftermarket returns. With the strong pencils of Frank Quitely, fans were wowed by the fantastic art within and the story's premise. Only 6 people out of billions receive superpowers. The rest is worth reading for yourself. The community is taking that seriously as we tracked 33 copies sold at a 7-day trend of 83% increase, 83%, with a high sale of $17 for a raw copy and a near mint FNV of $5. Now, I do not understand, this is part of my issue with their pricing. How can a high sale of $17 for a raw copy and then make the FNV be $5? I looked on eBay, I saw multiple examples of this book selling in the $15 range. So I would say that $15 is a fair FNV for this book right now. Once again, for a book that doesn't have any news, it's just people are reading it, enjoying it, getting excited about it, and wanting to going back and picking up issue number 1. And I understand why they would want to do that. That being said, every single issue of The Ambassadors has a new first appearance in it. It's about putting together this team of superheroes. So issue number 1, we got the inventor of the ability to give people superheroes power. That's very important, and a lot of very important characters in that. But then in issues number 2, 3, 4, and 5, we're getting brand new characters, the representatives for each one of these countries that are being chosen to get these superpowers. So if people are looking toward issue number 1 and thinking that there's value there, it's not like other comic books where you have issue number 1 where you have all these first appearances and then everything after is just a continuation of that. In this series, everything after that is more first appearances, more things to spec on. So people who are specking on issue number 1 should also be specking on every single other issue, because if anything ever comes of this, there's going to be a lot of each issue is going to be relevant for its first appearances. And so that's exciting to me. So that's why issue number 5 this week is my Just One Book pick of the week, because I've been enjoying The Ambassadors very much. The spec on issue number 1 is heating up. I expect that spec to permeate out to the other issues, including this issue number 5 that comes out this week. And like I said, it's just been an enjoyable read for me. So I'm looking forward to reading issue number 5. And once again, all those reasons are why The Ambassadors issue number 5 is my Just One Book pick for this week. All right, that's it. Hopefully this was a quick and helpful and informative video for you. Please hit the like button if you are so inclined to do so, and subscribe if you have not already done that. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.